Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. We have a quick look round blooms today because there are a few new ones and things opening up and all that sort of stuff. It's that time of year. But before we start, big thank you to everybody that's gone across to the Bonsai channel. Quite honestly, that thanks to your help, that has hit the ground running, seriously. I'm up to about 350 subscribers in less than a week, and we're well over 700 actual views on the channel. Now, although I hadn't thought about it yet, obviously my goal will be to monetize that channel, but the YouTube rules changed not that long ago. It's not just 1,000 subscribers now, you also have to have 4,000 views in the last 3 months, I think it is. Well, if I've got over 700 in less than a week, providing I can keep the pressure up, you know, I should actually get to that point relatively quickly. And hopefully YouTube is noticing what would be classed as fast growth. Now, I couldn't have done this if this was my first ever channel. I'd be sat there with about 5 subscribers and 10 views. But thanks to your help coming across from my established channel, this bonsai channel really has got up and running. So big thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. Seriously, couldn't have done it without you. So it's appreciated. I'm not going to do this all the time because it's cheating, but at the end of the day, for those who are interested in the bonsai side of life, I actually went out on a field trip yesterday to check the Scots pine that I plan to collect, just to check it's still there and that the whole area isn't waterlogged, because it is, after all, a very marshy area. So there's the video of that, and I actually came home with something. And that's actually made a sequence of 3 videos and started my first project on the Bonsai channel. So if you're interested, they're all linked together. That's something I am going to try and do more often on the Bonsai channel, because I won't be posting as often as possible. So effectively yesterday and this morning I made 4 videos for the Bonsai channel. They're loaded and they're linked, so when you watch the first one you get the link to the second one, and when you watch the second one you get the link to the third one and the playlist, and so on. So in theory you could select the playlist and go away and listen to some music or something or other and just let it play in the background, because this is a new thing. The way YouTube have set up its algorithms, it lends itself to people gaining views and YouTube's attention without actually physically watching the videos, because all they're interested in is the fact that you stay on YouTube. So if you flick a playlist on, you know, that's got like 10 videos in it and lasts 12 hours, as far as YouTube are concerned, you've stayed on YouTube for 12 hours. The fact that you're doing something else, not even sitting there looking at the screen, they can't tell, they don't know. So this is a good way of clocking up YouTube's attention, is to actually watch videos but not watch them. Just play them through, let them go through from start to finish, and then preferably watch another one, preferably yet again on the same channel. And these are real big brownie points on YouTube. Anyway, this is an orchid channel, but I obviously needed to get that up off the ground. Now my Comet King, Nobly type, that's looking good. It's only 4 blooms, but they're nice blooms and they're a reasonable size, so that's not too bad. In the background, my Dendrobium conico has a few blooms dotted around on what is looking like a scraggly plant. That is their nature. They're deciduous after 2 years. So I've got some new growths coming up to put some leaves back on the plant. I've got more leafless canes than leaved canes now. But that throws out little clusters every now and again. So that's good. And my Cattleya, the red Cattleya, that's still looking good. I don't know how much longer that's going to last, but it's been out a while. It's looking nice. And the other nobly type here, this is the sweet pinky Momoko with the really giant blooms. They're going to be gone soon. One's already dropped, there's only 3, but this will have another flush. Later in the year this will start forming some buds in other places. There's a cane here that hasn't bloomed yet. That will probably have a go later in the year. We shall see. My Avanagara apple blossom has now opened all of its blooms. Still only 4, but then, you know, this had the root issues that most of the Cattleyas had, so the fact that it's bloomed at all. And this has in fact got 2 leads, but one of them produced a weak growth, and the other one didn't and managed to bloom. So we'll see what it does this time round. In theory I should get 2 reasonably strong new growths this time round. It's recovered some of its roots, it's coming on, it's sort of doing okay. The Jenkinsii with its sporadic blooming, because it's got this big bald patch in the middle, well, we'll have to deal with that this year. Some blooms are starting to go over now, but from in where I sit on my computer, this is still looking good. That's why it's sitting there, basically, so that I can see it from inside. But I can't have everything in view from inside, it's not possible. The Pabstia, that's still in bloom. Incredibly pretty blooms they are. Lovely patterning, really nice. I like that a lot. I didn't think I would when I first got it because I was given it, I didn't choose it specifically. But yeah, I like those a lot. And then we've got the Coleogyne nitida that puts out wafts of fragrance every now and again that are not appreciated. Because I keep looking at the floor thinking one of the cats has been. Because that's what it smells like to me. Oh, I can't get in there, there's stuff in the way. The Dendrobium nester buds are swelling up nicely, but that's not many. That's a very, very poor blooming for my nester. We'll put that down as its bad year, but I don't know whether you can see that, but we've already got 2 new canes coming, nice and early in the season. So without any remounting procedures that I had to do last year, those 2 canes should push on to full size. So next year's blooming should be back up to scratch, with any luck. And my little Epidendrum, I was going to say Encyclia then, what began with E, that's looking nice. It's a nice little splash of a good orange. It's a good deep colour, so that's looking nice. And then we come round here and we have acres and acres of green with not much going on. But this is hidden away because the cane's hanging down and so are the blooms. These are tucked away, they're sort of hiding. But again, attractive, waxy sort of feel to them, black hair type, so they will last ages. And there's another 2 to come up here. Now this cane, the growing tip failed during the winter, so it stopped growing, whereas it hasn't really reached full size. But nonetheless, this one seems to bloom out of the apex only at the moment. So that was as much as it was going to do anyway, and it still managed to bloom. We've only got 1 Masdevallia out over here at the moment. There is another bud coming. Now this did have 2 blooms. This is Inca Prince, and basically the fan pushed the bloom hard enough that it bent it at the base, so it lost its hydration and nutrition and everything, so it just died back. So I had to cut it off, unfortunately, but there were 2, so I don't know whether this one's going to last long enough that this one will catch it up. I don't know. And then we've got our alien thing. This is my what do you call it? I've forgotten again. Sarracenia, something like that anyway, my carnivorous thing. Now this is a little awkward because if this is what it's going to do naturally, I think I know what's wrong with it. It's grown a spike that's far too tall and far too skinny to hold the weight of the bloom. That's what's happened to it, that's why it's all bent round. This should be out in full sunshine. That's what's wrong with it, it's struggling to get to the light. So I think once the bloom's over, it will go outside. We'll find it a nice sunny position, make sure it stays watered. Otherwise it's not going to colour up, it'll just stay green for a start, and it won't grow that well. It is supposed to be out in the bright light, so we'll get that done soon. Now, that's not going to be open enough to see, but I can at least pick it up and turn it round so you get a glimpse, an impression of what's to come. Very, very pretty little blooms on this Phalaenopsis. There's going to be people out there going, shock horror, Roger's got a Phalaenopsis. So he's got a mounted Phalaenopsis. And it hangs in there in the winter in these lower temperatures. I think it's just acclimatised to that, so it sort of does okay. I won't say it's brilliant, but it does okay. And then over here, we've got the next Oncidium type to come into bloom, and this will look very much like tiger tail, even though it isn't. It could, if you think in mass production techniques, in theory a clone is a clone and they're identical. That's the whole point. But there is variation occasionally, and sometimes the cross is done again to sort of start from scratch, and then another cloning batch is produced, and that's what this could be. So it could actually still be tiger tail, but if you put the two blooms together, they're not the same. There are distinct differences, but certainly the two plants that I've got are incredibly similar. And then we end on a high note. We've got my Miltoniopsis Venus. These are not going to be long lasting, but they won't be bad. And then up above it, something that will not probably come out the right colour. This is my Dendrobium Victoria Regina. This will be its best blooming by far, because first of all we've got buds on the top of the last year's cane, which is the big cane. It's almost twice as big as the others that were on the plant when I got it. So we've got buds up there to come, and then down here, if you look, we've got a cluster here and another one, and then here we've got two, and over here we've got three. So whether because they don't last an awful long time, whether they will all be open at the same time in this area, I don't know, but that would be quite a spectacle. I spent a long time, and I mean a long time, getting those blooms in my grow room with various failures. A dead plant came from somewhere in the EU, and that put me off. And then I found another one, and I thought that doesn't look a bad plant, so I got it, and it was quite a good plant. And I grew it on and grew it on, and eventually it bloomed and it was pink. So it wasn't the real thing, it was a hybrid. So that had to go. And then I did the same thing again and found another one, different supplier. Same thing happened again, it wasn't the real thing. And I got my money back on that because I was starting to get annoyed now. And then eventually I persuaded Sarah at Burnham's, so that I know I've got the real thing, to actually split up one of her specimen plants and keep me a nice piece. So I paid a fair bit for it, but I didn't care. I did say to Sarah, if you keep me a good sized piece when you split those, I don't care what you charge me for it. Just tell me what you want and you can have it. So I'd spent so much time messing about. So we're finally there, and as I said, last year we had blooms, and this year, boy are we going to have blooms. That's a lot. Oh, I keep forgetting, and these. So there we go, that's what's going on out here. I've started to get back into the habit of thinking about repotting and stuff like that. My two giant Restrepias, these big ones, the two on each ends there, both of those need repotting badly. They've been in those pots a long time, so that media will be going. So they've got massive root systems. They should pick up again fine with some new media. There isn't a huge amount else that's desperate, but those two need doing like now, so they'll probably be the next thing. And then I've got a list of mounts that need their moss replacing, because they're either on the old zombie moss or they're on what was a bit of an experiment for me. I collected some wild sphagnum moss. Now unfortunately in the UK the species that I managed to get hold of doesn't work. It just compacts into a soggy mess. It just doesn't work. So those that are planted in that have got to effectively come off, be cleaned up and remounted. And then those that are in the zombie moss, hopefully most of those can just be cleaned off a bit. You know, I can just tease off the old moss, because a lot of them have got very little, and just put some new live moss on. The problem I've got with the live moss is I haven't got too much of the smaller grade. The Welsh moss I've got 4 trays of, so I've got stacks of this stuff, but my locally collected stuff is a bit thin on the ground, so I might have to go out and get some more. That tray unfortunately got forgot in the winter, even though it had some moss in it, and it also caught the heater. It ended up sort of sticking out a bit too far, and the heater got it with no water, so it died basically. So, but it gives me another tray that I can fill up, so we can have 2 trayfuls of the locally collected stuff. And the other thing is, the Rhinantheras that went in the open baskets with the lava rock to keep them moist is not working. These have not got successful root systems, and this one is looking really poorly now. The roots are just not growing, and I believe it's because they're not hydrated enough, so they've got to have something done. I haven't decided what yet, but something's got to happen with them or they're not going to make it. And this one's certainly big enough to bloom now, but it's probably not going to bloom if it's not happy, which it certainly isn't at the moment. So there we go, a quick look round. Oh, I can't get round there without moving everything. We forgot got the Dendrobium infundibulum sticking up there, and it's got a huge bud right on the top of that cane that'll open soon. So that'll be 4 buds. There's 2 near the front there, 1 pointing away from us, and now another one right up there. And of course we've got the recent acquisition, the Odontoglossum type, I'll call it. And that they're holding on pretty good. That's a desperate repot. That's in the cocoa peat, and it has some reasonable roots in there. I keep my eye on it and I try not to overwater it, but that will need a repot in the very near future, and I might have to get on with that, irrespective of the fact the spikes are on there. We'll see what happens anyway. If I leave it in that pot too long and get the watering wrong, I'll lose the root system, and then we've got a serious rescue on our hands, which I don't want to get into, not when it can be avoided. So yeah, that's what's going on out here. And yet again, thanks for your help with the bonsai channel. That's sort of going good there. And you know, those that are interested, as I said, if you subscribe to that channel and switch the notifications on, then you'll get the old email when I post something. Because although there's a massive surge of videos to get the channel going, they're not going to be anywhere near as regular as the orchid ones. So I mean, you can almost guarantee that on a daily basis there will be an orchid video to watch if you choose to do so. That won't be true on the bonsai channel. That's not going to be true. There's far less work to do as a hobby on bonsai. So, but at least it's up and running, for which I am very grateful. Right, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.